Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the eCounsel Foundations training. As I mentioned before, I'm James Wallace. I'm the Director of eCounsel Client Success at Richard will be helping host this event. On this call, who will be the primary trainer is Emily Gangwer. She is our Senior Business Analyst. And Emily, if you could go to the next slide. She'll be the primary trainer on this call, and she will be, walking through an agenda and doing some demos and things of that nature. We also have to help with some questions is Manu Sharma. He's our product manager, and him and myself will be kind of taking questions and helping Emily, from a support standpoint as she's walking through the demo. Emily, if you can go to the next slide. So just a couple things before we get started. The session will be recorded, and we will be sending out the link to the recording once it's completed and processed. And we'll also be putting it out on our Success Center, and we'll be making that location available to everybody. As I mentioned, with questions and technical issues, just please send those in over chat. Manu and myself will be answering questions live back to individuals as best as possible. And if there's anything that looks like we can work into the conversation, we'll raise it to Emily during the training. But we also will have some time at the end for Emily to answer some pointed questions. Anything that we can't get to today, we will do follow-ups on, via email, and we can have follow-up calls. One question that has come up as we put this training out is if we'll be doing any more of these trainings. The plan right now is to do, this is a foundations or beginners training session. We plan to do, to host a advanced course, and then also one around reports, and potentially even over Suite Manager in the coming months. And we'll be publishing out a little more information about that here over the next few weeks. But, we have really good feedback on folks coming to this today, and looking forward to having this session. And we'll be having more trainings. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Emily, and she'll kick off the training. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. Before we get started, I wanted to just show you the agenda that I was going to go over today. We have a mix of different types of users, some that have been using the system for a long time. We have some new users. And I wanted to, point out and make sure that you keep in mind a couple of things. So everyone's eCounsel is going to be a little bit different. You may not have the same tabs and fields. The system is configurable. So, keep in mind that I may go over something today that you're not using to track anything, or you don't have to use in your day-to-day. And also, this is my internal training environment, so it's just going to be, sample data, and it's not a live system that's being used. It's going to be more of a basic training. We're not going to go into too much detail within each area. Like James said, we will have some follow-up sessions to go over certain things, but it's just going to be very high level, what the user interface looks like, how to navigate through the system, kind of the functionality across all of the modules, and get you familiar with the terminology that's used. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the eCounsel login page. All right. All right, so I went to my URL. One of the things that I wanted to go over was that sometimes you're going to have different environments that you log into. So you'll have your live environment, your production data, and then you might also have a test environment, or a QA or dev or some other environment that you're using to test certain things and parts of the system. So you just have to make sure that you're going to the right URL. Just a little high level. So this is eCounsel. We'll be logging in from the front end. we have Suite Manager, which is the administration tool. So if you ever see that referenced, that is your administration tool that your administrators will use to do certain things like, add a new field or a new value, reset your password, things like that. But today we are going to log into eCounsel. I recommend bookmarking the URL so you can get back to it easily. I don't know, depending on what browser you're using, they're all a little bit different, but you just have to make sure that you're booking the full URL path. Otherwise, it might have an error whenever you try to go to it. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. If you cannot get in at this point because maybe your password's incorrect or something like that, that's when you would reach out to the admin. I will show you once you log in how you can reset your password within eCounsel. All right, so once you log into eCounsel, you'll see that it's going to take you to the home screen. And let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so it's going to take you to the home screen. I have, mine is probably going to look different than yours. At the home screen, it's something that your admins can configure so that all users have the same home screen, or it's something that each user can set up the home screen the way they want. That's a security setting that's set. Typically, you are able to set up your home screen the way you want. So it's on a user by user basis, depending on who's ever logged in. And I'll go through some of the different things that you can do here on the home screen. So first thing you'll notice is on the left we have, and actually, sorry, I'm going to jump back. Before I go into the home screen, let me just give you an overview of the different modules and what's all available here on the console. So we have our home module in the gray bar here. This is all the different modules that are available. We have the Matters module, People. So people are going to be any individual person. Entities is going to be any company or law firm or a group of people. I like to make sure that everyone understands that. So the people and entity records are going to be created within the people and entity modules, and then those records will be associated to Matters as players. And then also if you're using invoicing, they will be on your invoices as vendors or maybe business units or invoice approvers, but we'll go through all that. And then we have the Invoices module, where all of the invoices are going to be located. Calendar, so this is where you can go to create a calendar event, a task or appointment. You can go here through the calendar module, but you can also, when you're on a matter, create one directly from there, depending on your configuration. Reports, this is where any of your reports are going to be located for you to run, and I'll also show you from the home page how there is a widget that you can add your favorite reports to your home screen. The search module, this is going to be where you can run additional reports, and it's our advanced search. So within each module, there's kind of some high-level searching within the grid, and we'll go through that. But in addition to that, if you want to search across any of the fields and tabs that are in eCounsel, that can be done in the search module. And the search module, that's one of the things that I'll go over high level how that works, but that's one of those things that I think an additional training, if you want to use the search module, an additional training would be beneficial. We have wizards that make your data entry a little bit easier. We offer 3 of those, and I'll go through those a little bit later. Notes, if you want to add any notes or progress notes to your matters, that's here. And then if you have the additional reporting tool, Analysis Center, the module will be up here at the top. And then on the top right, you'll see your tools, help, and log out. So if you click on help, this is just going to pop up an additional window with the to our Client Success Center with the user guide. So you can come in here and look at the documentation and find a guide that might help you with something you're trying to do. If you click on tools, this is where there's a bunch of different settings. One of the settings is change password, so you can come here and update your password. Now, of course, if you can't even get into eCounsel, that's when you'll have to reach out to your admin. You'll notice information, so this is going to show what your login name whenever you log into eCounsel, your logical groups that are available, and your view profile. So typically most of our users, unless you're an admin, you're going to be assigned to one logical group or possibly a few depending on your security. Accrual notification, I will go through that a little bit later, not in detail, but it's where you can set up an accrual notification to your firm. Enhancement requests, this is where you can submit any enhancement requests or ideas that you may have for eCounsel. If there's something that, kind of came to mind when you're in the system that you think it would be helpful to have within eCounsel, go ahead and submit that request and we'll take a look at it. If you click on About, this is going to be show what version you're on. So if you are ever asked what version of eCounsel you're on, you can go there to figure that out. And I won't go into too much detail here. This is the different users groups. There are some administrative settings that we've moved here to the tools that can be updated. So admins will have access to some of this stuff like the logs, but you probably don't have to worry about it. And preferences. So if you click on the Preferences tab on the left, you'll notice there's a few different things that you can do here. One of the things that you can do within the Matters module, people, entities, and invoices is you can choose what view opens whenever you open up a record. So you'll see here, always open Matters with summary view open is not checked. So right now, if I was to go to the Matters module and click on a matter, you'll notice that it opens up to the base information screen or the edit screen. But if I go back to tools and preferences, and I check that checkbox to open it to summary view and hit save, and then go open the matter, it now opens to the summary screen. So this is a user preference. If you're doing a lot of data entry, you may want to open it up to the base information so that you can go in and click on whatever field or tab that you need to update. And then if you're just wanting to look at the matter summary and look at it as a whole, then you may want it to be the summary screen. And it may be different depending on what module you're in. So for me, I usually do edit screen for matters, but then people and entities, I have them open up to the summary screen. And I'll show you, if I click on people, you'll see it's the same setting. The other thing that a setting that is available for these 4 different modules are the number of MRAs stored in the database. So MRAs are most recently accessed. You'll also see that whenever you're in your grid, there's a filter available to display all of the most recently accessed records. This is where you can set how many records show up in the list. So if I go to the Matters module and I go to change my filter to most recently accessed, you'll see there's 5 records displaying. But if I go back and change that number and hit save, I may not have accessed more than 5 records. Let's look. Yeah. Let me go click on a matter and open one up so we can okay. So now, and it's on the widget, but I'll show you that in a bit. So now when I go to most recently accessed, it's going to be 6 records because I've accessed 6. So that setting is available for people, entities, invoices, and matters. If you have access to override private matters, that setting would be here. I won't go into too much detail around security. One of the newer settings that have been added to eCounsel, so you may not even have this depending on what version of eCounsel you have. It allows you to default values for new matters. So whenever you create a new matter, it's just going to have blank field, or it's not going to have a value for these 3 things. Well, you can set in here what you want it to be so that when you do new, it auto-populates with these. So if there's a certain type of matter that you're creating more often than others, you can set the default value here. I will show you, I'll jump back to this whenever we go through creating a new matter, and I'll show you what that does. Invoices, if you create invoices in eCounsel, there is a setting for you to use a 1-page form when creating a new invoice. And then when we go in invoices, I'll show you that. Calendar, you can you can add your email address so that it pushes notifications or tasks and appointments to your Outlook. Date, time, you can set the format here. And so that all of these settings are specific to your user account. So if you change the date here, it's not going to show in someone else's system. They would have to go in and update it themselves. All right, so I'm going to go to my home screen now. So you'll notice here I already have some bookmarks here on the left and some widgets on my home screen. I'm going to go ahead and remove these real quick, and I'll show you how to add them from scratch. All right, so depending on how yours is set up, you may have a blank home page. There's a few different things that are available to add to your home screen. So you'll notice here on the left, we have bookmarks. So here is where you can actually create a few different things. So you can create folders where you bookmark certain pages within eCounsel. You can bookmark any page in eCounsel. And then you can bookmark external URLs. And actually, I'm going to remove that. And let me get Mitratech up. And I'm going to bookmark this URL, show you how to do that. So you do want to make sure that you have the full path, otherwise it will not work. And it's a little touchy on where you have to click in the right spot in order for this to pop up. You know, you can't click in the dark blue, it has to be down here. And I'm going to go ahead and click bookmark external URL. And you can bookmark anything you want to do here. If you work with invoices a lot, maybe you want to bookmark the lease format or maybe a specific page in an eCounsel user guide. So now when I click on that bookmark, it pops open a separate window to go to that external URL. You can also create different folders. So you'll see here I actually have a folder called My Active Matters, and I've bookmarked a page here. So if I click on this, it's going to jump to that page that I booked, the screen that I bookmarked. So to do that, let me just go to, I'm just going to go find my people record. I'm going to go to it. And then you'll see down here, it has the tabs that are available, but you see bookmarks. So you have to click on bookmarks first. So you see how the tabs went away and bookmarks came up, and then you can right click and say bookmark this page, and it will bookmark it. And you can always click back on tabs. You can remove bookmarks if you're done with them. So maybe there's 5 matters that you work on a lot, and then when one closes, you want to remove it. You just right click on it and select remove. Or maybe I want to add James's matters, so I want to do a separate folder for him. And then I can add bookmarks to his folder and keep it separate from my bookmarks. Another thing, just you know, kind of an FYI here, you'll see that if I put my cursor in the gray, you can change the size of that, and then you can click the arrow to drop it down. So I think that's it for bookmarks. You know, it's a user preference. Some people use them, some don't, but you can, any screen in eCounsel, when you'll notice that the bookmarks are going to be available. So if I click in a record, the tabs are going to pop up, but you can always click down on the bookmarks to have those show up. So if you have a certain record that's bookmarked and you forgot to do something on it, you can just click the bookmarks, click on the record, and it will pop open to it. You'll notice here that I have a tab here for my home screen, and then I actually have another tab right here called My Matters. So let me remove this and I'll show you. So this is similar to, you know, if you were in Excel and you had different worksheets, you can actually create a whole new screen on the home page. So I have my one home screen, and I want to add certain widgets to it. And in order to do that, you are going to go on the right to Personalize Homepage and click Toolbox. So these are our standard out-of-the-box widgets that are available. We do have a widgets user guide that goes through them in detail, but they're basically just, you know, useful things that kind of give you a summary of certain data that might be helpful, so you don't have to go click around in eCounsel. So for example, if there are some reports that you've added to your favorites, you'll see there's a favorite reports here. In order to get the widget on your home screen, you drag and drop. So I'm going to click this and drag and drop. You'll see that if I just drop it in the white space, nothing happens. You have to make sure that you highlight it blue, and you'll see that there's 2 columns. So you can pick how you want that to be. So I'm going to drop it. I've added some favorite reports, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to the reports, but you can make it a favorite and it will show up here. So rather than having to go to the reports module, go find the report and run it, I can actually just click on this and run it directly from here. A couple more that users find helpful. So most recently accessed, we have, the filter that's in the grid within a module. We also have a widget here. So if I drag and drop, it's going to list those matters here, and they are quick links to, if I click on it, it will go directly to that matter. So I don't have to go in my matters module and search for it. Calendar, task, and appointments. If you have that set up and there's any alerts, they will show here. Invoices awaiting your approval. If there are any that have you as an approver, they would show up in this list. And then maybe newly assigned matters. So there's a bunch of different ones that you can add. You can add as many as you want. If you want to remove a widget from your home screen, you want to click the down arrow and hit remove. A few of the widgets also have, if you click on preferences, so all of them you can change the title of the widget. You'll see that the title changed. A few of them do have some other preferences where you can change those to display whatever you want to display. So for example, the calendar task alerts, you can display the task based on, you can pick start date, due date, or reminder date. You can set the number of days to display. So the widget user guide will go into detail on every widget and what is available to update in the preferences. And maybe you don't want all of the widgets on one tab. Maybe you want to separate and put your, invoice information on a separate tab. So in order to do that, you want to click Personalize Homepage, and there's an Add New Tab button. And I'm going to type the title of it in, hit Add, and you'll notice here a new tab was added called Invoices. So maybe I want to remove this widget, go to this tab, and I want to add the widget here. So again, user preference, depending on what, maybe if you're an admin, you want some of the administrative widgets to be on a separate tab. User preference on what you want to do there, but you can do as many as you want, and you can organize them however you want. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over the grid and the different options that are available. I'm going to start within the Matters module just because there's more options there. But then we'll go into the Matters in more detail a little bit later. But let me go. I'm going to click on the Matters module, and so this grid here, this is going to be the same, functionality throughout eCounsel. So within each module. Now, some of the options will be a little bit different depending on what module you're in. The filters and fields that are available might be a little bit different, but the look and feel is going to be the same across eCounsel. So if you're creating a new record, you want to hit the new button. Deleting a record, which be careful with that button because it does delete the record. A lot of times we have security set so that you can't. Within the Matters module, there is a copy matter feature. We'll go through that in a little bit. Export. So in some of the other modules as well, you can export a list of the records that are displayed in this list. So you'll want to make sure that you set up your list first and your grid first and then export it. So within the grid, you can do different things like sort the fields and add certain fields, and you want to get all that done, and then you can export the list to Excel. So I'll show you once we set this grid up how to do that. You can print. It's just going to be a view of whatever this screen is. Type a title for the report, click OK, and you'll see here it's just that same view, and you can print it. So the first box is going to be your filters. So these are filters that are, a lot of them are something that, is preset. It's possible that you have additional ones that have been added like this. But basically what this does is it's just an easy way to filter out some records and pull a specific set of records. So for matters, for example, if I only want to see active matters, I can select that filter and hit find or enter, and it's going to pull all of the active records back, so 148. If I changed it to all and hit find, you'll see there's 192 records. So you first want to select what filter you're going to be filtering on. If you can't find a matter or a record that you know is in the system, always double check what you have here in your grid. A lot of times what it does is when you type something in and you search for something, it's going to remember what that is, and it may keep the value there. So you may switch to another screen, come back, and it's filtering on whatever you had set. So if you can't find a record, reset this grid and hit find, and most likely it will pop up after that. So I'm just going to set mine to all matters. The next box is going to be the fields that are available in the grid. So you'll see all of these fields are going to be the same as what's listed here. Now, if I go to options, this is where you can, there's a few different settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So we have display size. So you'll notice 25 records are showing on the first page here. If I go to options, I can change that. So maybe I want to see 50 records on the first page. Click OK. So it's now displaying 50 records. The fields that are on the left are all of the fields that currently are not shown in the grid that can be added. And again, this is going to be different depending on what module you're in, because the people record is going to have different fields available and different data is tracked. So maybe I want to add the state to my grid. So what I do is I select the field, highlight it blue, and you want to hit this arrow to the right to move it over. And then when I scroll on the right, you'll see it's been added. If I want to remove a field, so maybe I don't want to know if it's budgeted, I can highlight that and select the left arrow, and it will move it over there. and then I hit OK. And you'll see now here, budgeted was removed, the state was added, and also here within the list of available fields to search on. Go back to options. You'll notice you can move them up and down. So if you want a certain field to appear somewhere else in the list, maybe I want the matter number to appear first. I can select that field and move it up. And then click OK, and it will move those columns over here. So you want to get all of this set up before you export or print. And then the last thing you can do is you can sort. So there's up to 3 levels that you can sort. So maybe I first want to sort by the matter number. And then I want to sort by the open date. And I click OK. And you'll see here it's showing it's first sorting by matter number and second by open date. You can, from the grid, you can actually click on a field to sort it. So you'll see now it's sorting by matter name. And then if you ever want to clear your list options, you can do that. And you'll see everything went back to what it was before. All right, so this grid is used to, kind of high-level searching, just to find maybe a set of records. Maybe you just want to pull a list of all of the records with a certain matter type, or all of the active matters, or something like that. Now, the advanced search, you can do additional searching, but this is just currently it's going to be on some of the high-level base information of the matter. So maybe I want to pull a list of all active matters that have a specific matter type. So I want to select the active matters filter, and then I want to find my matter type field. And maybe I want to find all litigation matters. So here, this is going to be, depending on what field you've selected, contain, start with, or equals. I typically don't recommend equals just because you have to have the exact value for that. Or starts with, because maybe, litigation, maybe the matter type is litigation, but there's, something right before and it doesn't necessarily start with that. I usually pick contains, but if you know the exact value, then you can do the others. So maybe if I type lit and then I hit equals, it's not going to pull it back. So I just do contains, but all right. And then I'm going to type in my value, hit find, and it's going to pull back a list of all active matters where the matter type is litigation or contains. So in this case, maybe you're wanting to pull back all pre-lit and lit. If not, then it might make sense to do equals, and then you're only pulling back the matters that equal, matter type that equals litigation. So just one of those things to keep in mind, that these filters, to always check them if you're not pulling back the information you think you should be, or you're not finding a record that is in the system. And then once I have everything set up, I can go ahead and print or export and open that record. And you'll see here everything that was displayed is now exported to a spreadsheet. or maybe you were just searching in the grid and you want to now go open a record, then you can do so from this screen. All right, so I'm going to now go into the people and entities modules. I want to go over those to show you how you can create those records and get those records created before I get into the matters module. So I'm going to first click on the people module. So see, you'll notice here in my grid earlier, I searched for this record and it remembered that information and it's filtering it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that. To quickly go over, so if I click this filter, you'll see there's only a few for people, active, inactive, and then most recently accessed. So I'm going to go ahead and click active. And then I'm going to click options, and maybe I want to add a couple fields. I want to display whether the people are timekeepers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go into a record and show you the different tabs that are available. All right, so for the people record, entities is going to be pretty similar as far as, the information that you can create, contact info, employment information, evaluations. So for people records, you'll notice here, again, everyone's system is going to be a little bit different. So you may have fields that are relabeled and different information that is tracked on the people record. These are the out-of-the-box fields that we offer, but we may have relabeled certain things and added user fields for your system. People can be anything from an internal person at your company or an outside counsel attorney, a judge, anything across the board, any individual person. All of the fields, so the base information is one set screen. So while for this record specifically, I'm not a timekeeper, or I'm not supposed to be, those fields are still going to display because it's one set screen across all people records. So you just wouldn't enter that data in. The active checkbox, that's going to specify whether the person's active or inactive. You'll notice down at the bottom we have contact information, and then we also have it here on the left as a tab. It's the exact same thing, it's just a different view. Some people prefer it here on the base information, seeing the contact information, and some people prefer it on the separate tab. But if I created a record here, it's also going to show here. So it's the same view. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the contact info tab. If I hit new here, there's actually two different types of contact info that you can create. So you can click on address, and this is going to be an address. Now the types may be a little bit different in your system. This is something that can be set in Suite Manager by the administrator, but this is where you select what type it is and enter their address and whether it's primary and so on. The other thing you can create is a communication record, and this is going to be your, you can do email or phone, maybe a website, a web page, fax. I will point out that this depending on how your system's set up, these are important because you may have certain rules or workflow around email addresses, or even a business address, and whether it's primary. So make sure that you're familiar with that, and if a certain people record has to have an email or an address that has been created and is primary is checked. You'll notice here we have filters for the contact info, so you can filter, maybe there's a ton of information in here and I want to filter and only pull the communications. I can do that and search on certain things I only want, is primary. And I'm going to go back to the base information just to show you again. So you'll see there are 4 records, and then on the base information, it's the exact same thing. Documents. There is a Documents tab where you can attach documents. The matter, people, entities, and invoices all have that tab option. You may not have it in your system depending on what you have set up. Some of you have either document vault or a document management system that integrates with eCounsel, and maybe you're only using documents for invoices or a specific module and not the others. But this Documents tab, the functionality is the same. If it's depending on what module it's in, you'll first want to create a new record, which is going to list out the document information. Pick the document type. And then once that's created, you can attach documents to that record. So down here, the sub tab is going to be where the file is attached. So I'm going to click on one that I've already done. If I click on this, you'll see down here, there's a document attached, and you can open up that document. But if I click on another record, there's no documents attached. So this is another one where you have to make sure that you're on the right record. I find that a lot of users, they're like, I know I've attached a document, but I don't see it here, and they were on the wrong document record at the top. Employment. So this is where if you are tracking timekeepers, this is where you'll want to either you can manually enter this information or you can use our timekeeper wizard. So I'm going to open up this record. A lot of these fields are pretty important when it comes to your timekeepers and invoicing. You'll list out the employer, the job classification, begin and end date, whether it's an active record, and then the primary rate. And depending on what rules you have set up, the invoicing, the validations, and the audit rules may be checking these rates, and they may also be these rates are being added to the matter if you add the timekeeper as a player on the matter. So at any time, there's a couple things you can do with timekeepers. So you can export all the timekeeper information. So you'll see here it's the timekeeper information, and then I will also show you can export that information in another place for the entity. So I'll show you that in a bit. I don't think I have historical on this one. Let me open up real quick one of my historical records, and I'll show you what that looks like. think this one has it. Okay. So whenever you are a timekeeper has a new rate and you update that information, it's going to track the historical rates, and you can you'll notice here it's going to have the historical rates, and you'll see there's an export button here as well. Again, everyone might not have this functionality at this time. It just depends on your version of eCounsel. And you will notice I'm going to jump back to employment. So here, when you create a new record, it is actually associating it to this entity. So company or court, I'm going to select company. You're actually selecting an employer, and it's associating it to that employer, so that if I was to go to this entity record, it's going to show this person there on the entity record, and I'll show you that once we jump over there. All right. Evaluations. So evaluations is also available in the entities module, so you can evaluate a person on a matter. So in this case, you're evaluating this specific person on that matter. So I'm going to open up one of these records just to show you. Now, evaluations, the fields are similar in the other areas in eCounsel, but for this, it's specifically for this person, and you associate it to a matter. Expertise affiliation. So if I click new, I will show you. So here, you're going to select what you're entering, whether it's expertise or affiliation. If I select affiliation, you'll see certain areas and organizations pop up here. If I select expertise, different values show up. So that's two fields that have that parent-child relationship. And expertise affiliation is useful if you're searching around trying to figure out who would be best to work on a case. If you have this data entered, then you can run a report and look at that. Related matters. So this is where if a person has been added as a player on a matter, then those matters are going to show up here in this list. So you'll see I have all of these matters for this person, and it's going to, it's showing what their role is. And I'll show you when we go to the matters module, you create a player record and you associate a role for this person on that matter. There is a jump button. So anywhere you see a jump button, if you have a record highlighted blue like this, I can hit the jump button, and it's actually going to pop up, open another window and jump directly to that matter. So this is helpful if you need to go look at that matter to check something or maybe update something real quick. You can hit that jump button, go into the record, and do whatever you need to do. Now keep in mind it is opening a separate window. So if you forget and you start working in here, then this window might time out. So just remember that it pops, a separate window opens up. And then when you're done, you can exit. Oh, I didn't mean to double click. You can exit out of it and, go back to your people record. All right. related matters, and then that's if you have any other, custom tabs or on-demand tabs that were created within the people module, they could show up here or would show up here. And then summary view will show this is a set screen with, set fields on the screen, but it will show a summary of that person's record. And you'll notice anywhere in eCounsel when the text is blue and it underlines, you can actually click on it and it's going to go open up that record on that, within the people module. It will jump to whichever one you clicked on. All right, I'm going to go over to entities. So again, the same grid, same functionality. The filters will be a little bit different. So you can filter out and only show all court. And I'm just gonna, I won't go through every, tab and field, but you'll see the fields are a little bit different here. I'm going to go into a record. All right, and do edit. And so same thing for entities. There are different types of entities that can be created and different information is tracked on them. So all of the fields that are here on the base information, they may not necessarily apply to that entity. So for example, it may be a law firm and you want to enter in the tax ID and other pieces of information, or maybe it's a business unit that you're charging invoices to, and you want to enter in the chargeback information. If it's an insurance company, you would check the insurance checkbox, and a tab will show up on the left to track the insurance information. So there's different types of records that you can create, and so all of the fields may not apply to it, but it is one screen for every type of entity. When you click New, you'll see that you can create a company or a court. So if I hit court, you'll notice that the base information is a little bit different. So the court does have a separate screen for it. Now I'm going to go to one that's already created and just show you what it looks like. So you'll see this looks a little bit different on the base information because it's tracking the court information. But other than court, the majority or all of the other entities are going to be one screen. All right, so let me click on one. So on the available tabs on the left, again, for vendors, if you're doing invoicing, tax ID, classification, whether they're active, inactive, some of those things are really important for invoicing if you're using our Smart Invoice functionality. So I just wanted to point that out. Chargeback information, the right codes, things like that. You'll want to make sure that you have the appropriate information updated. Down at the bottom, contact information. So same thing as the people module, exact same functionality. It's just going to be for the entity. Same with documents. If I click on employees, so you'll see here you can't create a new record because what it's doing is it's actually when you create the employment record at the people level, it's associating it to the entity so that the record's displayed here. So if I click on this one and hit jump, it's going to open up that person's record, and the employment record that I created will be here. You can use our standard export feature, and then we also have a timekeeper export. So you can export a list of all of the timekeepers, and it's going to be in the format of our timekeeper wizard, which I'll show you that wizard here on the wizards module a little bit later. If you have any, user tabs or new tabs, those would be here. Billing info, if you are using our smart invoice, this may be turned on, and you may put in here the billing information for a firm and track the guideline, whether you've sent that information and they've agreed to it. Evaluations, same functionality, but it's going to be evaluating an entity on a matter rather than a specific person. And it's associating it to the matter. And then related matters, same thing. If an entity is added as a player on a matter, then it will show that association here with their role, and you can jump directly to the matter. All right, so I'm going to jump back to my PDF because I want to just quickly show you. So we're going to go to the Matters module, but I wanted to, for some of the newer users, I wanted to show you how our system is set up. So eCounsel is matter-centric, and whenever your company implemented the product, we went through and looked at your different areas that you're tracking information, and a matter classification list was created. And it's, up to 4 and maybe even more levels that you're kind of classifying your matters. The out-of-the-box terminology is we have the legal section, matter type, law area, and law sub area. Now, you guys may call it something different. The legal section may be the practice area or the practice group, or the law area may be the matter subtype. So the language might be a little bit different, but the functionality is the same, as in there's a first level, depending on what you select there, certain values are available at the second level. The design and what fields show up, and a lot of the workflow that you may have for your matters, it's all going to for the most part be based on the matter type. So depending on what matter type is selected, certain screens and fields will show up. And I'll show you that, when we're creating a litigation matter versus a contract. So I just wanted to kind of give you a high level on that, and then we'll go into the matters module, and then I'll show you creating a new matter from scratch, what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the matters module, and I'm going to go into a matter, and let's do I'm going to start with a litigation matter because a lot of the tabs are available for this matter type. So you'll notice down here we have our matter classification. So we have our legal section, matter type, law area, law sub area. If I click the little blue box to open this up, you'll see that you have to select the legal section. And so when I say I select law department, you'll notice that certain matter types are available for this. But if I was to select litigation, these matter types are available. So it's a parent-child relationship. Depending on what you select here, certain values will show up here. And then same goes for if you have, you're using law area and sub areas. Same thing here. I have certain values available. If I select something different, other values are going to show up. So everyone's eCounsel is going to look a little bit different on the base information. So we have some of our, standard fields: matter name, matter number, open date, close date, things like that. But you may have relabeled some of these fields, so your file number may be referencing another system that you're using. The product, sub-product, you may not be using these fields, so the labels are different. And then you may have user fields, which will show up here. These checkboxes down at the bottom, if you have those available, when the checkboxes are checked, the tab will show up on the left. So if I was to uncheck insurance and hit save, so right now my insurance tab is there. If I uncheck it, the insurance tab goes away. So if I'm not tracking insurance on this matter, then I don't need to check the checkbox. If you have these players available here, this is just an easy way to add, 3 players, certain roles that maybe they're common across all of your matters, or you're always going to be adding that player type or player role. This is just a view into that. So I could add it here, and it's adding a player record. So you'll see we have these 2 players here. When I go to the players tab, those records are going to be here. So if you want to update the people record, you want to do it here, or the player record, you want to do it here within the player tab. But then if maybe I'm on the base information and I want to add the primary client contact, I can click add, and I'm going to select someone. I'm going to add it, hit save, and then now when I go to the players tab, you'll see that record was added here. And the roles are set, so whatever it's set by your admin, that's going to be the role that's created for that specific player. So these can't change across, depending on the matter type. It's set across the board. All right, I'm going to jump to the players and participants. So this is the different roles, it may be different depending on what you have in the system, but for the most part, when I hit new to create a new player, there are four main categories of types of players. So we have our assigned staff. You may have various roles there: your primary person, your secondary, billing people and entities. This is where maybe any firms or other third-party vendors or managing partners. Business units, so the business units that you are charging your invoices back to, and then other, which will be everything else. Your roles, this is configurable, so it may be a little bit different in your system what roles are available. But this is where you select the player on the matter. And so when I go to select it, you'll see it's pulling all people and entity records. When I add it and associate it, and I save that, that's when it's going to create that related matters record. So when I go to that person's record, I will see this matter if I create the matter record or the player record. And then depending on the type of player, there's different information that you can track. If it's someone internal and they are an approver or reviewer, if it's a business unit or a chargeback, you can put that chargeback information, or if it's a timekeeper and you need to put the rate information. So all of these fields are going to be available for all player records, but you may only enter, you're probably only going to enter in, depending on what player it is, certain information. And I do want to point out, for a lot of this stuff for invoicing, it is really important, the workflow and getting that data entered. We have some standard functionality that is going to do things like, if you enter a billing rate on the timekeeper's people record or employment record, that will copy over to the matter when I add that player. And then when an invoice comes in, the invoice is checked against that rate. So the system is configurable depending on how your business does it. But there's different functionality to copy values over and auto-populate stuff and do validations. So make sure that you understand that workflow and how the player record should be set up. I'm not going to go through every single tab, but so the budget, if you have the budget checkbox checked, you can set up budgets here at on the matter. We are working on enhancing budgeting and accruals, so be on the lookout for that. Accruals, same thing. If you have the accruals checkbox checked, you can enter the accrual information. So this is going to be the accrual information for this matter. And in the tools, you can set up an accrual notification. So we have some functionality around sending automated notifications to the vendor for them to submit accruals for a matter. That is something that, if it's not currently set up, reach out to support and we can work with you to get that set up. It is a task in your Suite Manager tool to send that notification. Calendar, so this is where you can enter in any tasks or appointments for this matter specifically. So if I hit new, you'll see there's two different options. I can create an appointment. The appointment screen is going to be a little bit different than the task. So you have your category. You can put your date and time, location, a reminder, and you can invite certain people so it notifies them. And then your task, you'll see it's a little bit different. And there's some functionality around this. You can do percent complete, how much you've gotten done. When it's completed, put the completed date. And same thing, you can invite certain people. You'll see the values for the task are different. And just, one thing to remember is this is the calendar, task, and appointments for this matter specifically, so not for individual users. It's mainly for if someone needed to know, any tasks and appointments associated with this matter, they could come here and look at it. Costs, if you have any, if you have invoicing and there are invoices for that matter, you'll see this is just a view screen. It's just showing all of the invoices. You can jump to the record and it will open up the invoice. And you'll see I have this invoice selected, and I go down to the bottom. It's going to show a summary of the cost detail here, and you can search and look through that. Oh, and then down here it will show the total for that matter. Anywhere where you see this report button, in Suite Manager, you can configure it so that certain reports show up on certain screens and you can run them directly from that screen. So I don't know if there's any on this one. Let's take a look. There's not. I'll find it in another screen, but if I hit this reports button, any available reports will show up in that list and I can actually run a report directly from here. I don't know where I have some available. Okay, so here's some. So on the matter base information, it's configured so that these reports show up. So when I hit the reports button, I can run one of these reports directly from here. And my settings aren't set up, but this is something that is done in Suite Manager. So if you want this done, reach out to your admin. If they need assistance on how to do this, they can reach out to support. It's also in the user guide, in the Suite Manager admin guide. It's a pretty easy configuration to add certain reports to specific screens in eCounsel, so you can run a report directly from that screen. And that will be the same anywhere where you see this button. That functionality is going to be there. And so again, depending on the type of matter you're on, there's different information that you can track. So damages, if you want to track any damages, monetary or non-monetary, you can do that here. Dispute, if you need to track the case docket information, you'll see here. And then it has a sub-tab where you can enter in the judge information. Documents, this is the same as the people and entities, that document tab. This is our out-of-the-box creating documents. If you have a integration with a third-party DMS or a document vault, you would see that tab here rather than this documents tab. Exposure, you can track the risk of the matter. Negotiation, recovery, and reserves. And I won't go through all of them, but you can track the recovery information here, and then the reserves, any reserves or settlement. And again, you may have this configured a little bit different, or you may have a custom tab to track some of this information. And then related, you can relate matters to this matter. And then you'll see here I can jump to that matter record, but if I open this, I created a related matter record and I put the relationship type. So, maybe there's similar law or related litigation and you want to associate them. And then legal hold if you're tracking that, if you have that set up. I'm going to go, I know I sped through that, and, again, any follow-ups, we'll do follow-up sessions and go in more detail, but I did want to open up a different type of matter. Let's see if I have a patent. So we have other tabs available. Okay, let me just go to all. We have other tabs available depending on the matter type that you're in. So for this one, I'm going to open up this trademark matter. You'll notice here on the left, there is patent and trademark tabs. These are our standard out-of-the-box tabs. So if I click on one, you'll see there is a tab available to track patent information, and then one for trademark. The other thing that physical file, if you are tracking that information, there is a tab for this where you can enter in the physical file. You can, external storage, internal, put where it is, if it has retention or file destruction information. All right, and then I'm going to open up one more type of matter. So I'm going to go to, this one's an administrative matter. If I click on this, you'll notice the tabs are limited here. That tab shouldn't be there, but again, depending on the matter type, certain design and tabs and fields will be available. So some of your matter types like this, and then your litigation matters, or maybe even a contract, you might have a lot of design around that. It's matter type based, and there are profiles created for each matter type. Oh, and then insurance. Let me show you insurance real quick. Oh, that's not available. Let me go back to my litigation matter, and then we will. I'll show you how to create a new matter. All right. So when I have the insurance checkbox checked, the tab is going to, is this not the right matter? Hold on. I can't remember what matter I was in. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. So when I click on, and again, you have to have the insurance tab available for that matter type for the design, but you'll notice here you first create the initial record, which is going to be the carrier information. So you have to select an insurance company, and the policy information is going to pull from that record. So if I go back here and jump to this insurance entity record, you'll see that I specified that it was an insurance company by checking that checkbox, and then on the insurance tab on the left, I entered in the policy information. So you have to make sure that your entity is set up and the policy information is entered in first, and then they can be added as players and that policy information pulled over. And then if you want to track the claim information, there's a sub tab for that. All right. Oh, and lastly, progress notes. So progress notes, this is where you can enter the status or the progress of a matter, multi-record tab, so you can add multiple. I'm going to go ahead and hit new just to show you what that looks like. So you just do a description of your progress note, the date, and then enter in unlimited characters for comments, and it will show, who created the record and when it was last changed. And you'll notice here in the notes, when I click on that, it's the same thing. So because I'm on this matter is auto-populated and I can enter in a progress note. If I am on another screen and I hit notes, it's not going to auto-populate the matter. So maybe you're working somewhere else in eCounsel and you remembered you needed to add a progress note to a matter. You can just click on the notes, go find the matter and add it, and then be done. You don't have to necessarily go directly into the matter and click on the progress notes tab. All right, so I'm going to click on wizards now, and there are a few different wizards that hopefully help out with your data entry. The first one here is the global assign, reassign, and unassign. So this is where you can add a player to one or more matters. So maybe you entered in 5 matters last week and then a new, primary staff member was added and you want to add them to all 5 matters. It may make sense to use this wizard to globally assign them. You can reassign. So if, someone's retiring at the end of this month and you need to reassign their matters to another player or maybe, a law firm, you can do that here and it will end date the current player record and add the new one. And then you can global unassign. So someone's retiring and you don't want them to be an active player, but you don't know who is going to be the new person, then you could just unassign. I'm going to quickly just show you reassigning. I'm going to go through it pretty fast. There's a user guide on this, and we can do follow-up sessions on this. But I just wanted to give you a high level. So you can reassign. So the first step is select the person that's currently on there, person or entity. So maybe I am going on vacation and I want to take all of my matters and assign them to someone else. Step 2 is selecting whoever the new person is. Ian's going to take over all my matters, so I select him. Depending on the type of player, if it is outside counsel and there's a billing rate, approver, reviewer. So if I am an approver on invoices and I need Ian to take that over for me, you want to enter in the approver information. Or if it's a chargeback or business unit, you would want to enter in that information. So the start date, so I could actually, maybe I am not going on vacation, my last day is the 30th. So, so Ian's start date, I could select July 1st. So the 30th is my last day. Starting on July 1st, Ian will be the new player. Select what his role is going to be. If there are any calendar tasks or appointments or any invoices pending my approval, you could replace all of those records, replace my records with his record. And then you hit next. It's going to pull up a list of all of the matters that I am a player on, primary attorney, and I can pick and choose. So maybe I only want these 3. Someone else is going to take over this last matter. So I'm going to check these 3 matters. I'm going to hit next, and it's just letting you know that it's just reassigning it from me to Dalton or to Ian. I'm going to hit finish. And then when I go to one of these records, I'm going to copy this matter number and go look at one of those records so I can show you what it did. And you'll see here, here's my people or my player record, and it's putting an end date of the 30th. So as of after the 30th, I'm no longer the active player, and Ian is the new player. And it did that on all 3 of the records that I updated. So that's a nice tool if you have to do updates on more than one matter. We also have the copy matter wizard. If you remember when I was within the matters module, there was a copy button. It's the same thing. So I can, maybe this matter, I need to create 3 that are very similar to it. What I can do is select the matter that I want to copy, hit the copy button, and I won't go into detail on all of this, each step, but basically you can create as many matters as you want. So you can specify how many matters you want to create. Maybe you have to create 10 records that are all the same. You can generate the matter name, so you can change it for each one. It can be, a series, whatever you want to do there. Keep in mind that whatever you enter on this screen, that's what will be applied to all the matters that you create. So if there are matters that something's a little bit different, you can either, so for example, if I want to do all active players and all inactive players, or maybe let's just do active real quick. So I want to do this player, but the start date needs to be something different. You can create it and go back and update the start date, or you cannot copy this over and then manually go in and add whatever the player record should be. So that's kind of depends on what you want to do, but you can copy all of this information and it will create those records for the new matters that you create. So sometimes this makes sense for, maybe a group of matters that you have to, do 10 that all have the same players. That feature is nice. And the last one is the timekeeper file import. There is for our Smart Invoice, there is a timekeeper file that the firms are filling out, and they send back a spreadsheet that may have 10 different timekeepers on it. And rather than having to go in and manually create each record, you can actually just run this import and import the timekeeper file, and it will create those employment records. All right, and I know I apologize, I'm running over, so I'm trying to speed through this. So invoicing.
Yeah.
So this
Emily, I think Emily, just so you know, we've been answering, and get in front of most of the questions, so you'll be able to go right till right around 3 o'clock. So.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So just so you know.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. All right, so for invoices, if you have, so you can manually create an invoice from here in that, in the tools. Remember the one-page data entry. That's what this setting is, whether you have that or you don't. You can do that, or your invoices may be coming from e-billing from Collaborati or Corridor. But this is where all of your invoices are going to be. Um, I'm just going to open one up, and there's a lot around this, and it depends on each client system, how approvers are that workflow and how those are added and routed, allocations and chargebacks. There's a bunch of different logic to these and different ways that you can do it. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit and go into it invoice real quick, but kind of high level, the vendor is going to be associated on an invoice, different pieces of invoice information here. We have different statuses to kind of show where it is in the process. When an invoice is, and let me jump back here, when it is paid or, maybe it's fully approved and it's posted, and it's exported to be sent to your AP system. So the statuses mean different things about where the invoice is in the process. The invoice is awaiting my approval, so if you have that feature set up, you could select this. It's the same as the widget on the home page. It will show a list of the invoices that are in your queue for approval. All right, now I'm going to go into invoice and just show you there's a few different screens on the invoice. So that's the summary screen. It's a set view. Some users like to work in the summary screen, and then some like to come here in edit mode and look at the different pieces of information in detail. This is the base information, high-level information on the invoice. At the invoice level, if I click on matter, in the top section, it's going to show the matter that is associated to this invoice. You can jump to the matter record. And then down on the bottom, this is where the invoice detail will be, so the line item details. If I open up one of these records, you'll see there's different information that you can enter in for each line item to track your fees and expenses. The professional, the timekeeper, you may have validation rules that are, within this workflow, and it's validating certain things. For example, it's validating whether there's a timekeeper on a line item and whether that timekeeper has an employment record or a specific rate. You can adjust a specific line item. So you'll see here there's adjustment information, and we are adding certain functionality so that the adjustment information, you can send a notification to the firm. If you're doing taxes, the tax information would be here. The invoice allocation, the chargeback information, if you have those codes, that would be listed here. You can do split allocations, so you can enter it in the percentage, and it will calculate that for you. Anywhere where you see this defaults button, it's actually going to, let me see if there's approvers for that. So the defaults button is going to pull whatever is at the matter level, pull it over to here. So for the invoice approver, I have this currently set up, and if I hit the defaults button, it's going to restore the invoice with whatever is at the matter level. So I'm going to click OK, and it may be whatever's set up here, I'm not sure. Okay, so previously it was approved, and now it's not because it pulled whatever is at the matter level. So that's why it's important to make sure your matter is set up correctly, so when the invoice comes in, that information is loaded correctly to the invoice. And, as far as approvers, again, we have a few different things you can do. You can set up the approvers at the matter level with order numbers. We have a standard routing rule that looks at a matrix and configuration file, and then you can manually add approver records. You may have something custom, so that varies depending on what you have set up. And then I'm going to go back to the summary screen. So you'll notice here at the top there is, I can adjust or discount an invoice from here. So this is going to be adjusting or discounting the entire invoice. You can do a percent or you can do a dollar amount. I can reject the invoice, and that will, the top section, you'll send your comments to the vendor and the invoice will be rejected. The entire invoice will be rejected, and you can do internal comments that won't be sent to the vendor. And then, or you can do specific line items, you can adjust it. And then once you're done reviewing your invoice, you can approve that, approve your record, and it will route to whoever is next in the routing. There's a lot of workflow and functionality around the invoices module, and everyone has, it's a little bit different. So I won't go into detail on that, but we do have some standard functionality for each of the different parts of the process for an invoice coming in, the routing, and then going to AP, and then back into eCounsel for payment information. All right, report. So this is going to list all of the reports that are available. We have our set of standard reports that are offered that will be here. And then if you have any custom reports, those will also be displayed here. If you want to add a report to your favorite report, you'll see this add to favorites. You can click that and it will add it to the list. And then when you are on your widget, it will be there. And then there's also on the left a favorite tab. And then depending on what report you're in, you run the report, and certain parameters are going to pop up for that report. So this depends on what report you're on. We have our standard reports that, a guide that lists everything there. So as far as reporting and searching, so we have these reports, and then you can do kind of some high-level quick searching within the modules in the grid. And then the other option is this search feature, or the search module. So here is where you can search on any field or tab in eCounsel, and you can specify what records you want to pull back, and then what fields will show your search once the results are. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but there's, we can do an additional session on this, but you have to set your search conditions. Once that's done, then you hit run, and you're going to specify what fields will be included in your template. And you can save these templates so you don't have to rebuild it every single time. And then when you run it, is there one here? Yeah. You can export it to Excel, or you can pull up a report that you can print. So I'm going to go to one that I've saved. So here's a list of all the ones that I've saved. Oh. All right. Okay. None of my. Let me see. I forget which. Oh, I think this is the one. Okay. So here I'm pulling back all of the timekeeper records. So this is a report I saved. You do have to select what module. So in this case, I'm pulling all timekeepers. So I'm in the people module. Then I hit run. I've saved a template here. So I'm going to select that template. And first I'm going to, I'm not going to export it to Excel because I want to show you what that looks like. So here it's, you know, it's the look and feel is a little nicer than an Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see there's links to the records, and it pulls, I can specify what fields show on this report. And then the other option is to export it to Excel if you want to do some stuff with the data in Excel. So there's a lot. This can get complex. You can do different conditions, you know, this and this, or, you know, find this or this type of record. So it gets a little complex. We do have a guide on this, and we're happy to do some additional sessions on that. All right, and then last thing I wanted to show you is creating a new matter from scratch. And I'm going to show you without a new matter wizard, and then I'm going to show you one with a new matter wizard so that you can see what that is. So I'm going to go ahead and create new, and you'll see here I have values defaulted. That is that setting that was here in the tools, preferences. So here, if I didn't have anything set, it would just be blank. So if I'm creating a lot of litigation matters, then it may make sense to default that value. You'll notice it opens up to the base information screen. So here I'm going to create my matter. Any of the yellow fields are going to be the required fields. One tip for date fields, if I put my cursor in there and hit the letter T, it will auto-populate with today's date. Or you can do the calendar picker. Enter in your different information and hit save, and then it will create the matter record, and you can go to the different tabs to add any additional information that you need for that matter. And I do not know why this is being, oh, maybe that? That's odd. Let me try this again. I'm not sure what's happening right now. For some reason, it is not wanting to create. So let me, I'm going to log into my environment. Let me show you creating a new matter wizard, and I'll just use this. So, all right. I don't know if it's because I opened up a different database, but let me show you. So creating a new matter without the wizard. Again, opens up to the base information screen. I save that matter. Oh, of course, at the very end, I have all of the issues. All right. Okay. I don't know why all of a sudden I can't even do the simple creating of a new matter. All right, so we'll do, all right. Oh, yeah, some of my functionality. Let's see if I can get that. Okay. So once you create the matter, it opens up the, to the base information and shows all of the other tabs. Now, if you have new matter wizards in place, or this may be something that you want to use. So if you're using, or if you know that every time you create a certain type of matter, it's going to have these 3 players on it, it may make sense to set up a new matter wizard template. And what that is here you'll see that it has different tabs and records available to be created. So you set up the template for this matter type. So maybe every time I create this matter type, I'm entering the primary attorney, the invoice attorney, the business unit, and sometimes I even know the vendor. So you can add all of these to the new matter wizard template. Your administrator will set up that template for you. And you can, all on one screen, enter in the information for each of the records. And I'm just selecting stuff. All right, and then maybe I do know the law firm at this point. And I don't know the other contact information, so I'm going to skip that section. And when I create this matter, all on one, all of that was on one screen. So rather than having to go to the player participants tab and create each player, I did it all on one screen. So when I click here, you'll see all those records were created all at once. So if there's a specific matter type, or maybe, a group of matter types that, every time you create that record, you're going to have a primary staff assigned, and it would be helpful and, less clicks and save you some time to have that template set up, let us know and we can get with your admin and make sure that that gets set up. But you do have to keep in mind that whatever the template is, it's for, that matter type specifically. So if other people are creating records for that matter type, it would be a template that would show for them as well. You can't do different templates. It's not user specific, it's matter type specific. I think that is about it. I know I kind of sped through this, and feel free to follow up.
Yeah, no, I think this is great, Emily. Appreciate that. So, so what we'll be doing coming out of this is we had a lot of good questions, and we were able to respond to, I think, all of those. There's a couple follow-ups that New started reaching out to people. You'll be getting an email that will be with the recording, and then also a survey as part of that. And looking on the survey, we're just trying to understand how the format was, what you guys would like to see in future trainings, what kind of training sessions you are interested in. And as I mentioned at the start of this, we will be planning to definitely be setting up some more advanced trainings for eCounsel, and definitely some items on reporting, and then some additional sessions as well based off of all your feedback. But really appreciate everyone joining today and spending time with us. And Emily, anything you want to add as we're kind of wrapping down here?
No, I think that's it. I think just remember to keep in mind that really the key is the data entry. Just make sure you understand what should be entered in the system, and it's going to be a little bit different depending on the matter type, but the goal is to make your life easier. And I think if you kind of do the work up front as far as understanding what needs to be entered and getting that data entered, then reporting and things in the future, it's going to make your life a lot easier. But don't be afraid to reach out on, maybe you're doing something a certain way and you just want to see if maybe there's an easier way to do it or something we can implement or, configure to make that process easier. A lot of times, we implemented the product 5 years ago and stuff has changed and we can adjust your system to make your life a lot easier with, whatever configuration change. So don't be afraid to ask questions and use our client success center. There's a lot of good information on there on tips and tricks as well. So
yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then as far as reaching out, always feel free to reach out to your account manager. You can reach out to Emily, myself, and Manu if you guys have our email address. But you can always also get us at eCounselsupport@mitratech.com, and we'll cycle those through and get back to you on any items. And looking forward to doing more of these sessions and looking forward to all your feedback. So yeah, appreciate everyone's time today, and look forward to speaking with you all soon. All right, thank you.
Thank you.